Indeed. You're
Right.
Okay.
I'm doing expressions for thumbnails.
Alright, so we are live on YouTube and Twitch.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Hello, Dr. Rocky.
Indeed. All right. We're good. We're live?
Yeah.
All right. Roll it.
The history of the Gallic lands is one of struggle, punctuated by moments of sheer brilliance.
Tartan is Scotland's gift to the world, and it is your personal heritage story. Howdy, burgers. I'll start that over.
Yep, what? Yep.
Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome to Kilts and Culture. I'm Rocky. That's Eric.
Yo.
Today, very special treat. We have from our friend Robert Bonesteel. Few or FEW. Still don't know how to say that or not say that. We have American straight whiskey. So we're gonna try this one today. Yes.
Ah.
Make noises. All right.
Right in my ear hole. How was your 4th of July, Rocky?
It was blow up tacular. Great.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's love. I do the firework thing. We live in a little cul-de-sac, so do the firework thing with some of the neighbors and blow things up. And first time I inadvertently got higher shooting aerials than I thought that they were for explosives, and scared the wife a bit, but that's fine. Yeah, what's a little shrapnel and burning embers on dead grass between friends, you know. Indeed. All right, so Robert Bonesteel got us this. So I'm very curious to try it. It's been sitting in the back of the studio on the wall for a little while. It's an American whiskey. Figured 4th of July.
Yeah, the day
just
that
released
was
our
American enough.
Exactly, American enough for this one right here, and kind of goes along with our new America 250 collection. So we're gonna get a little tasty taste. So yes, indeed. Ian, you want to come collect your glass of Few FEW American whiskey, American straight whiskey.
Ladies and gentlemen, our MC for today, Ian Anderson.
Woo!
You missed your cue.
Quick break from tour.
Indeed. So what tartan you have on there today, Mr.
Got
Ian?
the Manx hunting something tartan. Ancient? I forget what the last word is.
Just call it Manx hunting. That's good. There you go.
There we go.
Beautiful. Very nice. Yeah, that's a nice one. I used to have that in the 5-yard. I no longer do. I may eventually have to
It's a good one.
get that one again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Thou shouldst.
Okay.
Yep.
So Ian
What tartan are you wearing?
Oh, well, we have to start with you.
Okay.
Around this way.
I'm
All
just
right.
trying to keep you on track. I'm
never
wearing
on track.
Scott Red Weathered.
Okay. Red muted. Scott
Red muted.
Yes,
Yep.
indeed. Today.
Ian is rubbing off on me.
Today I have on the American Dream tartan in honor of the 4th as well. So, yes, indeed. So Ian, what tasting notes / smelling notes / smelling salts, I don't know, do we have for
Smelling snoats.
FEW?
Yeah, so
Whiskey.
Few Spirits American Straight Whiskey. We start by hand-selecting a diverse and strong backbone of our award-winning bourbon and rye whiskey. We then incorporate unexpected notes from a rich yet balanced malt whiskey that has been imbued with cherry wood smoke. So for the nose, we should be getting notes of graham cracker and honey on top with the spire of rye whiskey below.
A spire
Spire.
below. A
Definitely.
spire
Below.
below.
Indeed. They
Definitely
stabbed
getting-
it and then turned it upside down.
Definitely getting the
Like
rye.
a tree.
Definitely getting the sweetness.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
that I would
Yeah,
have said
very
those
sweet.
things specifically.
I smell cherries. Like I
Okay.
smell a little.
I think the cherry's coming through a little bit mapley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting the cherry wood. But I don't know about graham crackers and whatever it was.
S'mores and everything.
S'mores and
Yeah. All right.
Graham crackers and honey.
honey.
Okay.
So
It's breakfast
broadly
cereal.
sweet. For taste, this cherry wood smoked malt whiskey combines notes of tart cherries and smoke with the sweetness of bourbon and the spice of rye.
I get a lot of cherry. A lot. Not
Very
so much
much.
the smoke. I definitely get the Bernie.
The rye spice.
the rye.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
spice.
spice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm feeling
It's good,
the heat on the edges of my tongue, the sides of my tongue.
I'm trying something different when I'm drinking. I'm no longer, aerating through it. I'm actually just like moving it around the mouth a little bit. I'm getting the spice all over the tongue for this one. And I'm like,
Which is pretty common for ryes.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
it definitely tastes like rye.
this is a weird reaction. I don't know why I'm having this, but I'm salivating a little bit right now. Like it's,
Okay.
I'm getting more, saliva in the
I
mouth.
get that sometimes
in
too.
the taste.
What
I
is
thought
the
it was just me.
style of Scotch that Glenlivet makes? What is that region of
Yes.
Scotch?
Speyside?
Speyside.
Or-
Yes. Speyside. I think ryes are like the American version of a Speyside for me.
Okay.
In that
Yeah,
way, the
I can see that.
spiciness in particular.
Okay.
I think if you like rye whiskeys and you want to try Scotch, maybe going with the Speyside is the way to go. First time I've had that thought.
Open it up. Would you like some water for yours or no?
Yeah, I have mine.
Okay.
It's like a
So-
Bernie rye and sherry.
The finish
Yeah.
it should
Reminds
be
me of
subtle.
sherry.
Finish is subtle with hints of white pepper and honey.
White pepper. Okay.
If that means bitter, then I'll believe you.
Just generally like spicy. I'll take it.
So spicy but spicy.
Yeah.
It's a spicy meatball.
I think the water's
Scotch.
only like intensified some of those things for me.
No, water cut it way down for me.
Really?
Yeah. Much more palatable for me who doesn't like like bourbons or whiskeys as much. It definitely cut it down. I still have a tiny bit of metallic-y kind of taste on it. But yeah, it cut a lot of the pepper out.
You say metallic. I just have a bitter aftertaste.
Okay.
It's kind of bitter on the finish.
I do like the nose of it. I'm meh on the taste,
I
but I
think the
do
water
like
really
the nose.
cut the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. I think I like the smell better than the taste.
Yeah. Okay. Ian, what do you give it? Score 1 to 10.
This one's a little disappointing for me. I really wanted to like this, seeing that Jace liked it so much, and also I believe I was conceived in the same town this was made in. But yeah, I'm going 4.
4. Straight 4. Okay. Things on your bingo card you didn't need to know about today, where Ian was conceived.
I don't actually know for sure, but that is where my parents lived when.
It's still more than I need to know.
Fair
Eric.
Lover's Leap references aside, I'm kind of with Ian. I would give this as a rye or a bourbon, maybe a 4.8. It's not great. I think it'll mellow, but it's okay.
Okay.
I'd mix with it, but I wouldn't enjoy it straight like I am now.
I'm gonna go a little bit kinder than you guys are on it.
Okay.
I am not a rye. I'm not a bourbon guy. But that said, it's especially with the water, it's not bad. I'm gonna go 5.2.
Did you notice the cherry went down with the water?
Yes,
I feel like
a
I
lot
lost,
of things went down
I
with it.
lost all the cherry flavor. Yeah.
So
Should not encourage me.
indeed. All right, boys and girls. We are, as always, but your humble servants here to answer your questions, whatever you have about kilts and/or culture stuff. So load those down in the comments, and while we're waiting for you to start with those,
Cha!
give me
Check this
something
out.
to chew on.
Matching lapel pin and
Clipboard.
clipboard.
Yeah, so nice, very cute, very
No.
adorable.
All right. First up, we got Randy Frazier, 8307, who says that my brother-in-law married into the McGorry clan, which is the Sept of MacDonald. He isn't sure if he should wear a kilt because he is Italian with no Scottish heritage. I think we know where we're going to go with this one.
Okay. So, you're Italian heritage, not Scottish, and you married into a family that has ties to Clan MacDonald. Should you wear a kilt? Could you wear a kilt? Are you allowed to wear a kilt in that tartan? My short answer is abso-freaking-lutely. The beauty of one of the beautiful things about marriage is you're combining lives. It's your life and her life or his life now together as one. Mm-hmm. So you are accepting, or their family is accepting you in the same way that your family is accepting them, hopefully. Knock on wood.
Ideally.
Yes, ideally. So to me, it is in many ways, it's the ultimate sign of respect for saying like, hey, your family has this tartan. I want to experience your culture. I want to experience where your family came from, what your family celebrates, and that kind of thing. In the same way that I'm sure she wants to, experience Italy and your Italian heritage. I will, relay it to my own personal experience. My mother-in-law is she is 100% Polish. Her ancestry DNA kit was a circle. Period. It's a solid thing. Her parents were off the boat Polish, spoke Polish in the household, coming up like in her entire life kind of thing. So when we do stuff with my wife's family, it's, we do Częstochowa, has a Polish festival, and the excitement and the watching my mother-in-law and her sisters, get so excited about that side of their family, and having the brother-in-laws, whether we're, German heritage, Irish heritage, and Italian heritage, as the brother-in-laws are, we still go to Częstochowa. We still have głąbkis. We still have pierogies. We still have babka. We still have and experience all of the, especially the foods, but also the music, the umpa bands, like running around, experiencing and having fun with the Polish stuff, and letting them see us be excited about their heritage in the same way that, when Rick, my father-in-law, wants to go to Celtic Classic up in Bethlehem. He will, he is of Scottish descent. So, they will, Sue will come along with Rick to Celtic events, and she enjoys that with him in the same way that we enjoy the Polish stuff with her. So that is part of the beautiful thing about the diaspora, and it's not just America. It happens, in Canada and Australia and other countries as well. Mm-hmm. But that is the beautiful thing about a country like America, is the melting pot, salad bowl, stew, whatever you want to call it. It is that. It is experiencing and celebrating different cultures and not diminishing one because you're celebrating another. It's, you can have fun at both separately and enjoy it for what it is, and then, just kind of blend it and just have fun with the whole thing and celebrate different ethnicities and different cultures. Eric.
Yeah. Me. What he said. I would basically just say the advice to the brother-in-law is what we say to each other and to people we know all the time, which is try to be a sincere student of the culture, learn something about it. It may be that the wife in this situation has not done as much research into her heritage as she'd like, or maybe she's new to it as well. This is a chance to share and explore something together. So I'd say, try and be a sincere student and just enjoy the journey.
Yeah. And if you want to get a little formal about it, or make it an event, let's say, maybe talk to the wife or the in-laws, and directly ask. Let's say it's the father-in-law. I don't know. If your father-in-law is the one with Scottish heritage, then maybe talk to him, especially if you have a good relationship with him. Help build that relationship by going to him and saying, "Hey, Dad, look, I love that you guys have this culture. You're steeped in it. You love it. You're enjoying it. You're expressing it. Would you mind if I became part of that as well? Would you mind if I wore a McDonald tartan kilt to honor your guys' heritage? Being part of the family now, I want to get in on the fun. I want to have fun with this as well, and I want to experience a little bit of this as well, and heighten the whole thing. And if you have a good relationship with the man or woman, whichever side of the family it's on, they probably wouldn't help but say, like, yes, of course, that'd be wonderful. And you're just deepening the bonds of your familial caringness, love, whatever it is. You're just deepening those bonds with her family in a meaningful way. So I would say, if you really want to score some brownie points, I would talk to that in the same way that, like, when you're going to get married, the old school thing to do is, hey, I'd like to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage, and you ask the father before you ask the daughter. You could do a similar kind of thing, and hey, this is your guys' family heritage, and I want to be involved. Is that okay with you? And it's a great sign of respect, or at least I would take it that way if I was him.
I think there's a possibility that they probably already know, or might already know, that the family is cool with it, but he might be concerned about the reactions he would get from other people out in the world. So the answer to that is not your business.
Not
am
your
I
problem.
Scottish? No. My lovely wife is, and this is from her side of the heritage, and I really dig it. So have a Coke and a smile.
Yep. And frankly speaking, I don't think many people are going to question it or freak out about it. If you ask, if you're walking around, at a Celtic festival, probably no one at all. If you're walking out to the grocery store in your, a McDonald kilt, someone says, "Oh, are you Scottish?" You're like, "No, I'm mostly Italian, but my wife is really into her Scottish heritage, and I got this kilt to honor her." That is a good as answer as any on why you would want to do something, or why you would want to wear a particular tartan. I wear, not today, but I have a couple different Stuart tartans that I wear because my wife and her family are Stuarts.
Right.
And, they love the fact that I want to, express that and honor them in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's very romantic also, frankly.
Yeah.
You can also just easily just say, I like kilts. Done.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
Indeed.
go for it.
Done. I hope that helps.
Wash day.
Exactly. All right, Ian,
Yes.
what do we got out there in the interwebs?
So I've got a question here from Seamus. He wants to know, have the number of textile and tartan makers in Scotland increased or decreased in the last decade due to the spike in Highland wear?
It's a very interesting question. How are we measuring the spike?
Fair.
That's the first
And
question.
has the spike been over a decade?
Mm-hmm.
I would say the spike has been much more than a decade. It's more of a steady tick up since the mid-'90s. So since Braveheart, it's kind of gone up and up and up, and it's not really come down too much. I think the Outlander effect has definitely, given a bump to it.
Yeah.
I would hazard a guess, this is only a guess, I would hazard a guess that the rise in Scottish nationalism and that kind of thing with the independence referendum twice has kind of promoted it a little bit more and had people go like, yes, I'm Scottish, I want to wear a kilt. I think that's probably added to the discussion. But I don't think there are no new tartan mills that I'm aware of. They're the same mills that have been out there.
What about that one up in the Highlands that was doing local sourcing only?
It's not a tartan mill.
It's not a tartan mill.
Thistle is the name of the.
It's a woolen mill that does tartan. Is
Yeah,
there a
it used to be a mill, and then they don't really do tartans. They do like fashiony tartan-esque.
Okay, I thought there was a tartan mill up there also, but point being, it's a small, bespoke, artisanal kind of an operation, so that's different.
Yeah,
but are mills going out of business, or conversely, or?
I'd say there was a period where there was some that were going through some problems. I know Dalgleish had issues and ended up selling to one of their customers, and I'm not sure where they are in their life cycle at this point, but they still exist. I'm thinking like Batley's, Martin Mills, Strathmore, House of Edgar, Loch Heron, Elliott. There's several tartan mills, and a lot of times tartan is not like the only thing that the mill does. A lot of times it's they weave tweed and tartan, or suiting fabrics and tartan, or schoolwear and tartan, or solid color wool stuff and tartan. So there is a lot of they don't necessarily just rely on only the tartan industry, only the heritage industry to keep their business afloat. Frankly, it's probably a poor way to run a mill if you're only relying on one particular thing as a set of customers. But I'd say that potentially the ancillary businesses like kilt makers or Highland wear shops, maybe more of those have popped up. I don't think there's a great need for. I'd like there to be more tartan mill options, but I don't think there's a great need for like a dozen more or 3 or 4 more tartan mills. I mean, it's pretty. It's easily handled by the ones that exist. Ingalls Buchan was the other one that they're another mill that went out or was about to go out of business, and Ingalls Buchan stepped in and bought it. Maybe that was the one we were thinking of earlier.
Maybe.
Anyway, so yeah, I'd say it's grown, yes, not necessarily in tartan suppliers. and I don't think it needs to. From an aspect of if I had to guess, the mills are doing fine. They're not setting the world on fire, making billions of, they're not burning $100 bills to light their cigars. So, but they're not destitute either. So I'd say they're in the middle. They're existing. There's 4 or 5 main mills. If you add another 2 or 3, that will mostly water down the ones that already exist, which will cut into their profits, which will then potentially hurt some of the mills. So I'd say I almost, in some ways, don't want a bunch more mills to exist. I want the mills that are existing to be as solvent and as good and as forward-thinking as possible, while also maintaining the quality standards and all the tartans that they're currently doing. Is that a businessy way to look at it, I guess?
You tell me. You're the business person.
Fair. So, yes, that's my thoughts.
But I agree about the accessories. I think there's more stuff in the scene in general. There's more people trying to do stuff that's a little more artisanal, and they realize they can do it because they see that there is more interest. They sense there's an audience for their product. So, jewelry makers and artisanal sporran makers and stuff like that. I think that's where you're really seeing it. Yeah.
I agree. And that's probably where it'll go a little bit more over the coming years.
I think so.
Cool. Hope that helps.
Good question.
Yeah, agreed. Eric.
What? Hey, Jennifer Berry, this is almost housekeeping, honestly, asked us, will you guys be at the Celtic Classic in Bethlehem this year? Answer is yes.
Yep.
So, for those
Yeah.
who don't know.
Yeah, every year we go up to Celtic Classic up in Bethlehem. It's the last full weekend in September. And we actually have a full booth there. We bring half the store in staff as well as in product. And we are set up there all weekend. And then we also do a live version of Kilts and Culture. So they are kind enough and weird and dumb enough, I guess, in some ways, to give Eric and I a platform, physical platform, to have a live show for about an hour over in the Heritage Hollow area. So if you are in the Bethlehem area, the New York to Philadelphia corridor, please stop out. Celtic Classic it's in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, the last full weekend in September.
Right.
Yeah.
We are especially psyched this year because our friend Allie the Piper is going to be headlining there this year. Totally stoked about that, as they say.
Albanach's going to be there.
Albanach's going to be there. Also friends of ours from way back.
Yep.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. If you're going, I do recommend making your plans now, especially if you want a hotel room, because it will get busy pretty quick. And yeah, there are options. I think there's probably still options to book a hotel closer to the venue now.
Yep.
But it is huge. It is absolutely worth going to if you've never been to it before.
Agreed. And stop by, see us, and then after the show, we usually hang out and chat for a while and, raise a glass and just kind of continue the conversation because we're only allowed an hour and we are much more long-winded than an hour will allow for.
That's for sure.
So, indeed. All right, do you want to do another one?
Sure, that was really short. I can do another one.
Yeah, it was a short one.
I can do another one. Of course I can. Bill Marshall said, I'm thinking about the day plaid as an extra warmth layer. Don't we all? Can you simply use a felted woolen blanket, or are there specifics to weight and shape that makes it specifically a day plaid? Would you look like a numpty who doesn't know what they're doing if you do anything other than a certain type of plaid?
Yes.
So is there a correct way to do the day plaid?
Bonus points for using the word numpty.
Yes,
Indeed.
very much so.
Indeed.
He's not a numpty because he knows what the word numpty means.
Exactly.
So,
So a day plaid, for those who don't know, it's a piece of cloth or a blanket that's roughly 2.5 yards long by 60 inches wide. Essentially, it's just you either wrap it around your upper torso or just fold it and leave it over your shoulder, and it's a picnic blanket is really what it is. So does it have to be in the same tartan as the kilt? Does it have to be worsted woolen cloth?
I don't know. You tell me.
You tell me.
Not really. It often is. You'll occasionally see something that is very much a homespun as an option for a day plaid. I think if it's a more formal outfit, a more intentional as an accessory, as well as something practical, something you're going to wear because you're a high muckety muck going to Highland games, which honestly is where you see them the most often. To be completely honest, I don't know how many people bother with them on any other kind of a basis other than it's something to wear to Highland games. The origins of them are a little murky, and I don't have the exact answer, but my understanding is it was probably more likely a Lowlands thing than a Highlands thing. It is not, to the best of my knowledge, a half a great kilt, the way fly plays and stuff are considered to be, half a great kilt. That's the lore of it. It's not the truth, but it's most commonly was used by shepherds. People watching flocks, and it seems to have been more common in the Lowlands than the Highlands. The fact that it's usually referred to in the context of like sheep and sheep herding implies it's a little bit later in period than something related to cattle. The shepherd's check, hence, was first seen as, the Northumbrian tartan was basically seen as worn as a day plaid before anybody ever thought of making a kilt out of one. Now it is very much used as a kilt and identified with that region. But it first started off as the common homespun pattern used for a day plaid. And it was entirely a practical thing. When it made the conversion over to something that especially clan officials and clan lairds would wear to represent at the Highland Games, I don't know why I keep doing this. I'm not sure, but I think it's because of the romanticism of it. Even well past the point where people were using it to stay warm while they're stuck in one place watching a bunch of sheep graze, and it's really getting nippy and you can't really move. It felt romantic and felt like the thing to do, and occasionally would come in handy. I've never seen anybody actually using one as a picnic blanket. I mean, in this day and age, usually there's folding chairs at Highland Games, or if you're hiking with one or something like that, actually hill walking.
Yeah.
Then you could use it for that. So I would say that if you want to do it correctly, I would encourage you to consider getting one in actual wool. Okay, not felted wool, really. And I would encourage you that you make it a matching tartan to your kilt, just because it's going to look a lot cooler. It's going to look more awesome. You could technically use any blanket, but it's something that's not very homespun looking and is not wool, especially something that's felted and fluffy looking, isn't going to look right. Right? I think the fringe is very much part of the look on those also.
Yeah.
So.
I'm trying to think. I've seen like clan chiefs at festivals or at Highland gatherings wearing them over the shoulder, and I know that they don't always match the kilt, or it's a much bigger pattern than what's on the kilt. But I wanted to say that they were like lamb's wool or something. Like it looked more blanket-esque in the photos that I'm thinking of in my brain, and I'll try. It
might be a looser weave.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't equate that to felted, like he said, like felted wool.
Yeah.
I think that would be the wrong way to go. But I also think they're just less common these days. Most of the pictures I see of guys using them are vintage pictures. So
yeah, it's superfluous. If we're at a festival and you happen to have chairs, then I'd rather sit down in a chair than on a blanket. But at the same time, you could use it for those types of things too, or to little extra warmth layer if you need it,
or something to wrap around the shoulders of your lady friend.
Indeed,
you can be very, very chivalrous with it.
Yes, good point.
So,
Mr. Ian.
Yes, so I've got a question here from Andrew Grunwald. He says, "Hello from South Africa. How important do you think the role pipe bands play in keeping the kilt culture alive, as opposed to pure fashion or lifestyle? In South Africa, it seems predominantly pipe band driven."
That's a really good question.
Yeah. One thing we've said often is that the kilt stuff, the heritage of kilts and culture, it always goes back to the traditions. It always goes back to the standard bearers. It goes back to the people wearing it traditionally, not like sans underwear traditionally, but worn as a full outfit traditionally. It goes back to pipe bands and those guys carrying the torch of it into the future kind of thing. there will always be fashion. There will always be people wanting to play with it. There will always be people wanting to interpret it in their own way or wear it, as a fashion accessory or as a thing, as a plaything to some degree. But you always, always, always go back to the thread of tradition and of heritage. Because without that, if it loses the heritage, if it loses the tradition, if it loses that story and that association, then it's just a fashion plaything and means nothing. And that's when it just starts to evaporate. And when it becomes uncool, it just goes away. So you absolutely need pipe bands. You need the standard bearers to be there. I think on the other side of it, you can still play with it. You can still have fun with it. You can still make it your own, but you need the balance on either end of the fulcrum.
Yeah, I would agree. I think also this is kind of gets vague, but you keep saying standard bearers, and the other point I want to make is that it's also very much the military. Now, in Scotland, unlike South Africa, you have the tourist industry, which has helped. And kilts and traditional Highland stuff, not just Highland dress, but Highland culture, Scottish culture, has gone in and out of the zeitgeist around the world over the years. I mean, we talk about this often with going all the way back to King George's visit in 1822 and the rise of Scottish nationalism. And that actually continued well through the 20th century as a common drone note, shall we say, of tourism. Tourism, earlier than most people realize, even into the 18th century, was something that was drawing people up to Scotland. And the romanticism of it was always kind of there. In terms of the visuals, it came down to the regiments, the Highland regiments, and the pipers. And most of the time, that was what it was, unless at a particular time in history or in world awareness of culture, something pinged. Like there are certain times, like World War II. There are examples of, when Americans first started seeing England, seeing Britain, being stationed in Scotland, before D-Day, and they started running into this stuff, and I was like, bing! And lo and behold, you start having a few movies coming out in the 50s based around Scotland, like Wee Geordie was a movie which I was just looking at some art for recently. Little things just kind of popped to the surface in the zeitgeist and popular culture. But the military side of it and the musical side of it with the pipers is always there, just always. And if you look at like whiskey advertising, both good and bad, in the UK and also in America, it's almost always like a bagpiper, or it's the old country gentleman in his kilt, with the huge sideburns, and his tweeds. So I think that's kind of there as kind of an icon. In terms of actually having the culture going in a material sense, it's been weddings and funerals for the most part, until, as we were saying earlier, recently when more people have gotten into, hey, this is not just something I should say for special occasions. I can enjoy this anytime I want, and heck, it's also comfortable and looks good. Win. But yeah, absolutely true. My earliest memories of the kilt were movies I was watching with my dad, like frickin' Gunga Din, old movies, and bagpipers, and that's definitely a standard bearer for sure. Not the only one is the real takeaway I'm trying to give, but very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the military nod. It's yes, 100% that just as well as the bagpipe bands.
Very much so.
Yeah. Cool. Hope that helps. Eric.
Hey, it's me. Okay. Noah Barnett. Hey, are you ready for this?
Hey, Noah.
Hey, Noah. What do you know, Noah? Just a fun what-if imagination exercise for you. Okay, you ready? Ian, you'll probably have fun with this too. If you could rewrite a sci-fi or fantasy show or movie or a video game so that all the characters wore kilts and island wear, or some variation thereof, which one would you choose, and what would that look like to you? So, we're definitely far away from tradition at the moment.
So tradition, sci-fi reimagined. Yes, Ian. Bring Ian in for this as well. We'll start with you.
With tartan and kilts and all that.
This is a fun question. It is tempting to want to do Star Trek because you can still have all your jokes about killing all the red kilts. My actual answer is Lord of the Rings. Because I'm a big Lord of the Rings dork. That's probably my biggest fandom. But I think it's interesting in the way that you can like represent all the different groups of elves with their different tartans. You know, you can tell that they're elves of Mirkwood or elves of Lothlorien or elves of Rivendell based on their tartan alone, and that can be helpful if you're watching a battle scene, if you care to get into the details over, you know, which side is making this advance, if it, you know, even gets into that. I mean, same with the dwarves, same with the men. So
Dwarves are already Scottish. What are you talking
well, true.
Thanks, Hollywood.
But you can tell, you know, which troop or band that they come from, depending on which tartan they're wearing. And, you know, you don't need to know any of that if you're just enjoying the movie for the spectacle and the entertainment of it all. But if you really want to get in the weeds like a dork, you can really, you know, do that.
Wow.
Okay.
And then it inspires all the, like, how would elven leather work to go with their kilts look different than dwarven leather work versus, I mean, I guess the dwarves.
Well, I've been to the Ren Fair, so I already know the answer to that. But
fair enough.
Ren Fair, where the history is. I was expecting you to talk about Star Wars.
Okay.
I didn't realize you were as big a Lord of the Rings nerd as a.
Oh, no, I've always been a much
Star Wars
bigger Lord of the Rings dork.
Okay.
My initial AIM screen name was Aragorn1502.
Very nice.
It's hard to get Rocky to talk about Lord of the Rings, though.
That's fair.
Okay.
I enjoy it. I'm just not that into it. Okay. I've seen them. Yes.
Because you have no soul.
I know. Fair. It's fair.
I'm a little stumped, honestly. I mean, I am the resident Trekkie to a large degree, so it's been done kind of, but I do think that Kilts would go great with Starfleet stuff and some of the alien cultures as well. But I don't think I'd put aliens into Kilts. I would just have it be a Starfleet thing. But I want to think of something more fun, more off the beaten path. So let me percolate on this a little bit.
Okay. For me, shout out to the 501st Kilted Trooper Brigade. I think Star Wars, there's a very, very obvious, you can do a lot of things within that. I could see, you know, the stormtroopers wearing a particular black and white Menzies-esque tartan, or Ewoks wearing gray kilts or something to that effect. Little tiny gray kilts. Yum, yum. But
they look like piles of laundry just moving around with a lot of extra dryer lint.
The Jawas are almost there already.
Right.
But the here's what I'd actually like to see. I'm gonna say, you know, I'm gonna put off, you know, an existing one, and I'm gonna go a slightly different direction with it. I would like to see in the same vein as like the HBO John Adams series, a quasi-serious historical type film done about Bonnie Prince Charlie, or series done about Bonnie Prince Charlie, showing him not like for all his faults, for all of what he was. Some people idolize him, other people think he was the ruin. So it's the Great Pretender versus, you know, so I want to see that. I want to see a deep dive into Jacobite stuff.
Okay.
With
so you're
Bonnie Prince Charlie.
Going with the fan. You just want
gritty,
hyper realism.
Yes, and I want to go from like beginning of his life through the end of his life. It didn't end well. Spoiler alert.
Oh man,
but
I haven't read that one yet.
But I want to see. That's what I would love to see. I'd love to see a hyperrealism kind of one.
You and your wife are really into historical drama anyway, right? What was the one you were watching recently?
Ben Franklin was another one that just kind of came out, or just is coming out in steps with like Michael Douglas or something. Great, he did a great job. The John Adams one on HBO.
Right.
Who's the? I forget the actor's name. I'm bad. I'm really, really bad with actor names. So great, but that's a very, very great series as well. So stuff like that, or even like Downton Abbey or Peaky Blinders, where they incorporate, you know, like the costuming is really, really good.
I got two answers now.
But I wouldn't go the Outlander route. I wouldn't make it fantastical. I would try to stick more to fact, and then you fill in the drama where there's gaps in the story where no one knows the answer. That's where you fill in with the drama. So
I think that'd be freaking amazing, and it would really do well. So I support the idea wholeheartedly. I still reserve the right to criticize the details when it comes out.
Fair.
So I got two answers. One, this one's probably more for some of the ladies in the audience, but tell me if you agree. At the end of the last season of Bridgerton, the one couple were going to live up at his family estate castle in the Highlands. So I would love to see, and I would cringe the whole way, but it'd be funny as hell, and possibly still eye candy, would see Bridgerton up in the Highlands and what the hell they would do with that. It'd be off the chain. You know, those who know the series know that they take certain liberties with the Regency era fashions. So that would be highly amusing. My other answer is I was recently watching a Netflix anime called Blood of Zeus, which is actually pretty good. I've actually enjoyed it, and it's basically a fresh story with some liberties taken, and but mostly a lot of nods to try and keep it very solidly rooted in actual Greek mythology. And what we need, and I've said this many times before, is to stop neglecting Celtic mythology. And I would love to see a freaking Blood of Zeus style anime show about Celtic mythology, Irish, Scottish, Gaelic in general, the old stuff. You know, like
Banshees,
and the Tuatha De Danann, which I always mispronounce, Tuatha De Danann. Forgive me. Anyway, that would be freaking off the chain and would be awesome. And the gorier, the better. So that's what I'd like to see. You want fantasy with kilts? Do the freaking Celtic myths. That would be awesome.
I agree.
Like
And then when you need a palate cleanser, watch Bridgerton.
Kind of reminds me of the Saltier comic. Basically
Exactly,
like a
but
superhero
yeah,
type
but-
of a thing.
But this would be like high fantasy based in mythology.
Yeah.
You know. So
Interesting.
So I know you didn't want to do Star Trek, but imagine all the different like factions of Klingons and different Tartans. That could be fun.
Oh yeah, I could see Klingon. I know Klingons, so I mean I could see Klingons having. I mean,
Yes, they're in your
Klingon
comments,
houses
like, I
are
know.
basically clans, right? So yeah, having a different Tartan for each clan. Yeah,
The-
like
I don't want to get into all the suggestions folks have shared, but I should mention the best one. Somebody wants Spaceballs 3, The Search for Spaceballs 2, all kilted.
that would be fun. That would be
I agree.
very silly.
I agree. Wasn't that like an actual like trying to get made Spaceballs 3 the search
think
for
so.
Spaceballs 2?
I think it's happening.
They're working
Oh.
on it
I think
now.
they've announced casting stuff recently.
Oh.
But there's a lot of fake type of news articles about
Yeah,
that type of
yeah.
stuff.
People
lately,
love to
too.
play. Fans like to make stuff like that
So
too.
it can be hard to tell sometimes. Maybe I'm wrong.
Play with my emotions. Okay. Very good.
That was fun.
Yeah, cheers. Mr. Ian.
Yes. Let's go to another fantastical idea here.
Uh-oh.
I've got a question from Fiber by Nature. If you were to create a kilt maker's tartan, what colors would you use and why?
Kilt maker's tartan.
Yeah,
Do you mean a
tartan
a
specifically
tartan that would be
for kilt makers.
easy to work with, or a tartan to represent kilt
I
makers?
think the point is to say that you're a kilt maker when you're wearing it.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, Ian, you can stay in for
You
this
can
one.
keep
Yeah.
you can
Curious
keep
about
your
that.
Harris tweed little patchy there, boyo.
Yeah.
It'll be, I guess, like a tan or like an off-white for the machines of most brands of single-stitch sewing
Beige.
machines. Beige.
Red for the blood. You always gotta have
thinking-
red for the blood.
I'm thinking blue, either for the a very common seam ripper brand that often comes in blue, and or the slider on the sewing gauge,
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
like a bright electric blue.
See, I was gonna go like kinder to our kilt makers and ourselves, and be like, it's gonna be a very simple pattern, black and white, so it's easy as hell to sew
Right,
and easy to
right.
see the
There you
different
go.
colors, versus something
There you
that's
go.
like super subtle.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. Like there's a question buried in here about how busy you make it, because certainly being very busy gives you a lot of lines to work with, but it can also
Yeah.
make any tiny errors very noticeable. So like
Or any
Well,
tapering
any
to have
tapering.
spikes in the back.
Okay,
Yeah.
but then that introduces another idea that like this is a rite of passage tartan.
fair.
Like you're not
not a master
officially
kilt
in the
maker.
guild until you can actually make
this
a kilt
busy
from this
tartan.
really
Yeah.
horrendous, horrible tartan.
Yeah.
Mm.
But even the answer is you don't want anything too simple and too large and blocky and not busy, because that can have challenges in its own right.
I'm trying to think of numbers that you could put into it. Like,
I'm still going down the rite of passage thing. It's like you need to visit an American Indian reservation and take peyote and sit in a sweat lodge, and you must be there for 30 days while you sweat and try to make this kilt in the dark and see and squint, do it by candlelight and try to get the. Oh,
It's made,
You have
from,
to-
it's made from various metals, so
Yes.
it's harder than wool.
you have to field strip your sewing machine in the dark.
this is my sewing machine. There are many like it, but this one is
I
mine.
was just about to do that.
You have to actually sew it with a piece of stag horn.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
No, you have to weave it yourself. You have to weave it too. Sheep to shawl.
Nah, I
sheep
fell
to
down.
goat.
The set size is such that it is in the pattern is in even inches, perhaps. So you always know if you're looking at the set, it's.
When was Wilson's of Bannockburn founded?
17. It was right after, right before prescriptions were lifted, I think.
Okay.
So 17. Was it 83? 1783?
Something like that. Yeah. Okay.
So it was right around that time period, and then they ended their run in the early 1900s. I want to say 1920s.
I'm trying to think of numbers that you could do for thread count. That would be cool.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's hard.
that's good.
Color symbolism. Gotta have red for blood. Always have red for blood. Did I say it already? Always
You
have red for blood.
You have to have the muted green for Wilson's Bannockburn. Their
Right.
stock
Yeah.
shade.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay.
I have gold to represent the royal writ, which some people, some companies get. What else? I have a brown to represent the wood of the original looms, like the pre-industrial
Daub cross looms.
Yeah,
Okay.
Daub cross
okay.
looms. That
okay.
could be neat.
Yeah, I like it.
There's
All right.
wow.
So
Red.
down in the comments, tell us what colors you would put into a kilt maker tartan, and why, and how complex or simple would it be to torture yourself with?
You've got to have some red in there for the blood that you've spilled due to
You think?
the needles that
You
missed
think?
their mark.
That's-
For Morgan's blood.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Morgan's blood? The Morrigan's brother. Okay. That was fun. That was okay. Not marketable though. Let's see.
Not that attitude.
Don't at me. Randy Frazier, 8307, has an etiquette question. If you're a Mason, do you wear a sporran when you're also wearing a Masonic apron? I've seen people wear it on top of and also under the apron. I'm not sure which is better or appropriate. And we did actually call a friend.
Lifeline. Yep.
Call in a lifeline for this one.
Yeah. The I thought I knew the answer. We did, but I wanted to verify, make sure I'm not a Mason, so I wasn't, stepping on people's toes. Essentially, all the Masons we spoke to, all 796,000 of them. 4.
4?
Yeah.
I thought it was only 2.
The Masons we spoke to basically said, no, nothing goes on top of the apron. You should not wear your sporran on top of the apron. For those who don't know, when you're at lodge, you generally get dressed up for the event, and whether it's a suit or whether it's a kilt, you wear an apron across the front of you that has some Masonic symbolism on it, and that you don't put things on top of. So several Masons said that either they'll wear their sporran under it. I've had Robert Hughes, one of our moderators in the Celtic Culture group, actually said when he puts on his on, he actually wears his sporran to the side. Rob, our IT guy, is a Mason, and he said that he'll wear it in, and he'll take his sporran off and kind of put it underneath his chair, so that he doesn't have the bulge of the sporran in front underneath the apron. So generally speaking, if you're going to wear it, yes, you can wear the apron on top of the sporran. It may be a little bit uncomfortable, so either wear the sporran to the side or put it underneath the chair, or hide it.
Yeah, if it were me, I would just remove it. I think Rob's got the right idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you don't want to have a lump in it.
Yeah.
That just look weird, especially if there's a photo op at some point in the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So there you go.
Yep. That's about it.
Simple.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
Pretty much. Boom.
When in lodge, do as the lodgians do.
Indeed. Ian.
Yes. Got a question here from Brian G. He says, me and my fiancée are looking at getting a tartan sash for her to wear over her wedding dress. I am Clan Stewart, and her family is Clan Turnbull. Should we get a Turnbull sash or a Stewart sash?
For her to wear.
For her to wear.
Yeah.
Yes, over her presumably white, but not necessarily, wedding dress.
The there's a few different ways you could look at it. You could look at it as a lot of times there are sort of standard-esque answer, especially if the woman has no Scottish heritage, is the guy has a sash pre-pinned to the appropriate length, and then at the time in the ceremony where you may now kiss the bride, or where I now pronounce you man and wife, he can actually drape the sash over her to symbolize she's being accepted into his family and now it's official kind of thing. I wouldn't want to have her wearing her family tartan and take it off to put on his.
Yeah,
that would feel weird. I don't know if you could sew one back to back and
I was
imagining
that. That'd be interesting, but a little odd.
Yeah, it'd be a little bit difficult to do. I'd say, and I don't think I would have her wear another one, like a bandolier of sashes.
Sashes? We don't need those stinking sashes.
I wouldn't necessarily do that. But I could see maybe the bridesmaids wearing his and her wearing hers.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Or something to that effect to show that it's both sides coming together.
Or just every other bridesmaid in a different one.
Yeah, fair.
That'd be neat. Really flip a coin, really. And which one are you more drawn to, or what does she want to do? That's the bottom line. How does she feel about it? I've more often seen the combination of the tartans in a hand fastening cord, where you take some leftover tartan or even ribbon that's in the right tartan, if you're lucky and you can find it, and braid it together or twist it together into a cord for doing the hand fastening. That's what I've most often seen for that. I think having it flipping over like an Othello chip would be kind of weird, kind of amusing. You like that? I don't know. If it were me, with the people I know and the Celtic women I've known in my life, they'd want to have their own tartan. Bottom line is they would want to represent their family, because more of an equality kind of a thing, So I would say it's up to the bride. There's no wrong answer in this day and age. So do what will make the parents happy, if you're so moved to do so, because I think that can be very important and very, very nice, touchy-feely kind of a thing for them. Because honestly, weddings are for you, but they're also for your family a lot of the time. So, don't upset anybody. Let's put it that way.
Would there be any? I'm trying to think to the symbolism of. Again, this is all like old timey kind of symbolism. But when the father brings the bride down the aisle and hands her, gives her away to the guy, is there a symbol that we can incorporate there with the father giving something to the new son-in-law? Maybe he gives him something in his clan tartan, and then the bride wears the new tartan.
You can invent it.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, that's that. Again, like I've said, the hand fastening cord usually is where people tend to put that.
Yeah, because it's the combining of things. Yeah. Ian, did you have a point?
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on this one. I think some people, despite what you're saying, might like the idea of wearing in hers and leaving the ceremony with his. It'll work for some people, it won't for others.
Yeah.
And if the symbolism of that, losing your clan is something that's of concern, maybe there's a way that they could trade items. She could take the new sash. Maybe she puts like a boutonniere, like in
with her tartan backing,
on his jacket.
Yeah.
As a way to we're not giving up our clanhood for another's. We're
joining
sharing
clans.
both.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the best way to do it, but it's a way to think about it at least and come up with some fresh ideas.
Yeah, we're playing with the idea of clan very loosely. We're really talking about families in the modern sense and in the present tense. The people who are alive and sitting here in this church. If you're talking about clan and the tradition of the clan, she would be joining that family. So that's it. So then it would be all about his family tartan.
It's easy to overthink the symbolism here, though.
But that's what you do for a wedding, Ian.
Sure.
You always overthink the symbolism.
Sure.
Yeah, and
Fair enough.
But to that point, it is a beautiful thing filled with a ton of different symbolism. So it's it's between the two of you what actually matters in that moment, especially if you guys are the ones paying for it. That said, don't get caught up in the details. I mean, it's really for it's the symbolism that you're going to show in that moment. But the things that will live on, unless you're having a videographer there to record the entire freaking thing, the things that will really live on and be passed down are the photos, are the wedding book, it's that kind of thing. So having, prioritizing those and prioritizing those, captured moments versus the whole procession and all the things that are involved is really what matters more. Mm-hmm. So, but don't get caught up. If you want to do, hey, you should wear my tartan to the wedding, and she says, no, I want to wear my clan tartan, don't make a thing out of it. Don't start the marriage off with, fighting about that kind of thing.
With a blood feud.
Yeah, indeed. It's your love for each other and your accepting of each other's, families and all that. That's really what matters more in the moment than which sash you're wearing at the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. All right, Eric.
Hey.
We'll do one more, then we'll do our mid-show
our mid-show thing.
video.
Okay.
Indeed.
All right. Do you
What
want me to do this one? Or
was
do
the
this
one with the
after?
question of the day one?
What was our question of the day, sir? I don't remember.
I forget.
Adam?
Adam, do you remember what the question of the day was?
Or will be.
You will wear a kilt to Scotland and fly white.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, I can skip to that one, and then we can do.
Then we'll go back.
I think
Yep.
we should do this one after.
Yep.
Matt Horn. Hi, Matt. Says, my girlfriend and I are traveling to Scotland in the fall. I'm definitely going to bring a tailored kilt or two with me, but I was also wondering about taking a great kilt. I know kilts aren't often worn daily and are usually worn by tourists. Would a great kilt look a little trying too hard? A la, oh, look at the American who watched Outlander and thinks he's Jamie Fraser. Or would it get more or less the same reaction as a modern tailored kilt? Or something completely different?
Sure.
Should you wear a great kilt on vacation to Scotland?
On vacation to Scotland, the way that the general public is going to interpret your dress when you're wearing either a great kilt or a regular kilt in diaspora countries. So let's say, America, Canada, Australia, Germany, South Africa, those kind of things, versus Scotland is going to be very different. It's going to be perceived differently. If you are in South Africa or you're in America wearing a kilt, when someone comes across you, their immediate reaction is going to be, oh, that guy must have Scottish heritage. Or if you're wearing a great kilt, oh, that guy must be doing a reenactment of some kind. They may equate it in that way. If you're in Scotland, it's either going to be, oh, that's a tourist who's expressing their heritage, or they're a tour guide who happens to be giving an Outlander tour. So it depends on where you are, how you're going to be perceived. If you are in Scotland and you want to be perceived in that way, and I'm thinking great kilt being worn in a traditional great kilt manner, not in like a contemporary t-shirt manner.
Okay.
We can talk about that as well.
Yeah, I think that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I would say that you're gonna have you have to be okay with being perceived as a tourist or someone who's just having fun with it in a particular way. Eric, what are your thoughts while I continue to hone mine?
Yeah, my thoughts are not going to be too different. I'm sorry. I do think, despite the statistics, I do think that there are more guys wearing kilts in Scotland now as enthusiasts, shall we say. We've always known a few, like our old friend Jock Scott, who's one of the old timers on the old X Marks the Scot forum, who do wear kilted attire, Highland attire, tweeds and all, in a very gentlemanly way. That's their lifestyle. But if you're walking around in Edinburgh, yeah, they're going to think you're either a tourist or a tour guide. And as soon as you're up in your mouth and they hear that New Jersey accent of yours, they're going to know you're not a tour guide. And if you're wearing a great kilt, I think they're either going to think you're going to think you're a street performer or a street musician. Like some of you guys know this, but the band Albanach was originally members of, was it Clan na Drama?
Clan on drama, yeah.
Clan on Drama, who still perform. And they are a street performing band, and they get up there either with t-shirts or topless in great kilts, and they go drum their drums and stuff. And somebody's going to think...
Just like that.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Not disparaging them at all.
They're going to think...
Okay, that was disparaging.
No, that's just how I play the drums. So...
Big monkey man to channel my specials.
Yeah. No ska during
No
a
ska
fight.
today. Okay.
So I don't recommend it. I really don't. I was trying to think about this, and I thought maybe you could make an exception if you really just love wearing your great kilt. Maybe if you're doing a hill walk, if you're going hiking in the wilderness, and it doesn't matter what people are looking at, and you just like some of us do, hiking in a kilt or just wearing, a great kilt modernly for the comfort and all that, then okay. But if you're in the city, I really wouldn't do it. But consider the source. If I'm going to go to Edinburgh, it's very likely I'm going to be in tweeds and a tie the whole time. Okay, I would have a hard time, especially if I went representing our company. I would have a really hard time dressing down. That's just the way I am. Okay, but if I were out in the evening clubbing, if I was out in the rural areas hiking or something, I think there's a lot more room to move there. So you know what I mean? You could take it, but I'd really think about how you're feeling that day and what the crowd you're going to be encountering is like that day. And you got to be on, man. You got to be prepared for a lot of attention and a lot of reactions. You got to be prepared to perform if you're going to do this.
I would also say it depends on your reason and your thoughts on visiting a country. If when I go to Scotland, or when you go to Scotland, are you going to visit historical sites of your ancestors, or are you going to do that plus visit current day Scottish sites? Are you trying to get a sense of what their current day culture is, or is it a history tour? Which lens, do you have on? If I'm going to Scotland to a trade show and I want to find the coolest restaurant in Inverness, or if I want to find the best hipstery bar in Oban or Fort William or wherever I'm going, you will stick out like a sore thumb and get kind of like weird looks from people, or not necessarily weird looks, but you're going to get looks from people because you are dressed different. When I would go, I would want to, like I always say, if you go to a hotel, ask the people who live there, where do the locals go? Don't tell me what the tourist places are. I don't want to see the Royal Mile in Edinburgh. I want to know the coolest, the coolest bar in a weird part of the city where people don't go. It's only where the locals go. That's what I want to experience. Those are the moments that I want to have, is seeing that. Or when you went to Ireland to Doolin, where's the best, where's the best traditional session music night tonight? Where should I go to see that? Not downtown shopping district thing necessarily. Or if you want to go to the history and see the history stuff, then that's fine too. That said, if you wear kilts every day, so I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here. If you wear kilts every single day, if you wear a great kilt, if you're Jonathan Kennedy and you wear it in a contemporary way with a t-shirt and specific style of boots, and it's just your vibe, that's who you are as a human, then sure, do it. No one is going to, lambast you and kick you out of the country for doing it. You're just going to get the same amount of attention you probably get here in the States or there in Canada or wherever over there, but they are going to be seeing it through a different lens than the people in your hometown do. The people in your hometown are going to say, okay, you're doing this for this reason, or he must be Scottish or have Scottish heritage. Over there, they're going to think of you in a different way, and it's just specifically in Scotland. So they're going to be thinking of you in a different way. So it's just understanding that they are going to see it through a different lens than people in your location do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you just touched on one other factor worth mentioning or worth putting a point on is a subculture identity. If you're wearing that gray kilt or that kilt and you've got full sleeve tattoos and you're wearing a muscle shirt and you got funky hair and you got earrings. Hi, John, talking about you. People are going to assume it's some kind of an artist subculture, probably heavy metal, kind of a vibe.
Yeah.
You're an individualist, and yeah. So you may get that. In which case, they're just going to look at you like they would any other punk in some kind of subcultural gear. If you wear your typical tourist, casual, don't care if it gets wrinkled in a suitcase T-shirt, and your hiking sneakers, and your boonie hat because you don't want to get a sunburn, that's gonna send a different message. Context is king. I would say you could bring it, but I would make it the least of the things you worry about packing, because I think it'd be more trouble than it's worth. Personally, I think tailored kilts are gonna be a lot easier to deal with in a lot of ways. So
I agree. Good point.
But if you do it, show us pictures.
Yeah. Cheers. All right. Now, for those of you who know, you know. For those of you who don't know, we're about to show you. We recently launched our America 250 collection, and our first tartan out of that collection was the E Pluribus Unum tartan, celebrating unity. And we did a whole video on that, and we're going to play that for you now.
Ba-bum.
E Pluribus Unum. Out of many, one. This concept cemented our path as a nation and brought 13 separate colonies into one union. Through the blood, sweat, and tears of the early Americans, ideas like individualism, religious tolerance, and liberty were forged into action. And when revolution came, join or die became a rallying cry. The founders knew that only by working together would there be a chance for the great American experiment to succeed. And so we begin our America 250 collection by honoring this idea of unity. The E Pluribus Unum tartan begins with a single white stripe, the noble ideals upon which this country was founded. The white stripe is surrounded by 56 navy threads for the 56 signatures on the Declaration of Independence. There are 13 stripes in the transition to symbolize the original 13 colonies forming one nation. A single red line represents the blood shed in the fight for American independence. Navy blue and tan incorporate the colors of the uniform worn by the Continental Army. And lastly, the light blue and the dark blue sections are balanced to represent the equality of all Americans. E Pluribus Unum. We choose to embrace this principle. The concept of unity has inspired generations of Americans with pride and with purpose. We might disagree with our neighbor, but in the end, we are all Americans. The beating heart of our republic is found in that place where regular people find a middle path forward. It's the mechanism that still drives this great experiment of ours. We're very proud of this design, and we hope you find its meaning inspiring. Join us as we begin our journey celebrating the rich tapestry of America by uniting as one. So that is our E Pluribus Unum tartan, a tartan to celebrate, to kick off our America 250 collection and to celebrate all the good things that we have in common and the unity that we should have as a nation. So, indeed, I hope you guys are inspired a bit by that. It was, it started out its life, so to speak, as our founding fathers tartan, and then as we kind of further got into it, there was a bigger story that we wanted to tell, because E Pluribus Unum was in the story for the founding fathers and how different they were in their own beliefs and having to come together, and that was, in some ways, that was the first compromise that had to be made as a country, as a nation, was you had to come together and say, okay, I don't agree with everything that you want, but we have a common enemy, we have a common goal, we have to come together first. Because if we can't do that, we're done. We're dead, all of us. So that was the original compromise, so to speak. And when we started really thinking about all the symbolism that we wanted to go into with this tartan, it really became more about that and telling the story of of the nation and kicking off this whole collection with a tartan to represent unity, not just the story of the Founding Fathers, which is obviously a very pivotal moment in the country, but telling that story and how it still applies today.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember one of the things that, one of the thoughts that I think hit me when you were working on it was, we were talking, getting past the Founding Fathers thing, was the fact that we are big fans of the Founding Fathers, and as important as what they did was, there were a lot of unsung heroes from all walks of life and all levels of society who were involved in the revolution as well. So the idea that this was a movement of the people, not just the
56 who signed.
So that was a big deal for us, because we wanted it to feel like it is an everyman tartan in a sense. It's something that everybody has a right to. That heritage of this country is something that we all have a right to. So I thought that was a strong element.
And there was even thoughts beyond the symbolism that we included in there. Like we had thoughts about the 3 shades of blue for the 3 branches of government. We wanted to include the tan not only for the colors in the colonial uniform, but also for the parchment paper on which the Declaration was written.
Yeah.
So there was a lot more. We didn't want to have people think we're too artistic and crazy with all the 987 different reasons and rationales of why we're including all these different things. But it's all of that stuff it's just boiled down. I remember originally there was a lot more in one of the earlier incarnations of the tartan. There was a lot more tan, kind of the balance of the uniform. But as it evolved into more of a unity tartan and less about the Founding Fathers, less about the soldiers, and more about the country and the founding principles of the country, I dialed back the tan a lot. And kind of went with the 2 shades of blue as the meat, so to speak.
There's what was there, 7 or 8 different versions of this?
Oh, at least.
At least, yeah. It was a lot.
Yeah, I go through a lot of renditions before I finally settle on something. But it's, what's your favorite line? No project is ever completed, just abandoned.
Yes, that's the old line from the world of writers. No project is ever finished, only abandoned. So,
yes.
I think the trick was to make it elegant. Try and come up with a tartan which is not generically America, red, white, and blue. Yeah. That's always our watchword, is to, how can we make this fresh for people and still meaningful? So I like it. I like it a lot.
And different than what is out there, and things that haven't been done or touched on before, or areas that haven't been explored. So,
but with newness
come questions.
And so I'm hoping we have some comments out there we can discuss, or questions people are asking now. But one of the main ones we've gotten, which was crystallized by Scott Smith on the Kilts and Culture Facebook group, saying, I've seen the E Pluribus Unum tartan. I'm wondering how to pleat it. I thought about pleating it to the set, but I'm also considering pleating to the red stripe. How would you pleat it, and why? And wasn't there something about he was he a Marine or something like that? He had a reason why he wanted to do the red. Yeah. And I have heard more than one comment saying that this would probably be a good tartan in terms of the dress blues vibe of the Marine Corps. I think, which hadn't occurred to me at the time when we designed it. I was like, oh yeah. Yeah.
And one of the other comments in that post were about the designing of it and why we choose certain elements or don't choose certain, or make things a certain size or not. So he was asking about pleating it to the red stripe. So Adam, if you could pull up on screen the image of the tartan there for us. The red stripe is notice it's a little bit wider than the white stripe. So when you're pleating it to the red stripe and the tan on the outside, then that thin blue guard, and then the lighter blue section. If you imagine that being pleated on every single pleat, it would, if there's a big taper to the back of the kilt. So if the guy has, or the girl has let's say an 8 or 10 inch difference between the waist measurement and the hip measurement, each individual pleat is going to taper a good amount. And if the bottom of the pleat, the bottom of the fill, is like 3/4 of an inch or an inch wide at the bottom of the fill, 0.9 inches, whatever it is, it's going to have the blue section on either side of that red stripe and the tan stripes. As you get up towards the top and those pleats start tapering down at the waistband, you'll start losing some of that blue. And if it's an aggressive taper, meaning it's a big waist to hip difference, then you may end up losing the blue 3/4 of the way up, and you're going to end up with blue spikes going up in the back. So I would say it could potentially be pleated to the red stripe, but it would be ideal on something like a box pleat, or something where it's a wider pleat, a 1.5, 2 inch wide pleat, where you have plenty of room on either side of that red stripe. I think that would look pretty darn good. As a designer, when I was designing the tartan, one of the things, or any tartan that we design, if we want it to be able to be pleated this stripe, there'll be a very high contrast, strong, singular element. So in the E Pluribus tartan, my thought was, have a white stripe, and then in a navy blue field. So the lightest and the darkest element in the design have those, right next to each other, or the white stripe in the blue field. That way you can, if you pleat it to that particular stripe, it really, really pops. It really stands out. So a lot of my designs, somebody kind of joked like, oh, there's the signature rocky white stripe, and I never thought about it in that way. But yes, a lot of my designs have a strong white stripe in a darker area, so it's easy to pleat to a particular thing. Ian, do you have any thoughts on pleating it?
Yeah, so that was an interesting comment from the original questioner, because I definitely think of the white stripe first for pleating, but I could see that one working to the red.
Yeah.
I am generally a pleat to the set kind of guy anyway. That's kind of my go-to answer. And I often explain that. I remember explaining this to a couple different people who did custom weaves with us recently, who were contemplating this question. Like, you chose all the colors.
Right.
Maybe even you paid for a custom dye for one of those colors. Show them all. Let them all sing. I mean, you do always see everything in the horizontal part of the pleats, but if you lose it in the vertical, it can be good, it can be bad, but I don't know. Just let them all sing.
Let it all hang out.
It's a chorus. Don't just have a soloist.
I see.
Perform the whole way across.
Indeed.
That's my preference.
Yeah, I think I generally fall where you do on that. I used to like the stripe more, just to give the front of the kilt and the back of the kilt have a completely different look to them. So it's almost like two garments in one, if you're gonna make, or two tartans in one, if you're gonna make that argument, that could be made. Yeah. But the more I wear kilts, the more I've kind of started leaning towards the set, like Ian there.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference, set or stripe?
I'm always a set person.
Okay.
I don't tend to go for pleated to the stripe if I can help it.
If you can help it.
As a general, well, let's face it, a couple of my kilts I inherited from you.
Oh, yeah. Fair.
So well, it's pleated to the stripe. I'm not sure I really want it. No, but no, with anything I've done, if I have the option, I will go to the set.
Fair.
So
cool.
And that lightning bolt thing you're talking about does concern me, because I think that it really would depend on your hip to waist ratio, like you said.
Yeah. Indeed.
So.
Very good. Ian.
Yes.
He always comes back like Bane. He's like, yes.
Oh, I was born in the tartan. You have merely adopted it. Andrew Cooper asks, with the Olympics coming up soon, do you think the Highland Games will ever be an Olympic sport? What is the best way to make this happen?
Which
Which
Highland Games?
Yeah, which particular event in the Highland Games? Do I think or do I wish? Those are two separate questions.
Yeah.
He said think, but
yes. Do I think? No. It could be potentially kind of shoehorned into some track and field stuff.
Right.
Like the stone throw is essentially it's a shot put with a rock as opposed to a metal ball.
I think the only one that's really unique that would not be just mimicking something that's already an event
is caber toss.
Toss, or maybe the Dinny Stones.
But Dinny Stones aren't a Highland Games.
Well, they're in a lot of Highland Games now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like you mean like taking the big stone and lifting it onto the barrels? That's...
I thought the Denny stones were the 2 stones that they
the
had
Denny
to hold
stone's
up.
that's the lift.
Yes.
That's like the deadlifting.
Lift
okay,
and
so
hold.
what's the one where
Yeah.
you're putting the stone on top of the barrel?
Yes.
Yes, that one.
Yes.
But if you're going to introduce anything, I think it'd have to be caber
Yeah.
because it's unique. It's not crossing the streams.
Yes, but it would have to be. They would have to have enough athletes in each country, or at least some athletes in each country that like doing Highland Games. So it would really only be the countries that have Highland Games. So like Germany, Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada, Scotland. That's really where the athletes would come from. So is there a broad
Potentially.
enough appeal? I'm not on the Olympic Committee. However,
Yeah.
I would have to think, would there be a broad enough appeal for a particular event to get enough athletes to compete to have it be actually competitive?
I have another idea. What if you had Olympic tug of war, and
Okay.
all the members of the national team against all the other members of the other national team.
Okay.
So you have a tug of war that spreads across the entire field, like
Okay.
30 people on either end of the rope. Maybe that's an after party thing though. Maybe it's not an official event.
Yes. And they'd have to wear kilts.
Of course.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting thought, but
Yeah, but
That's,
what? So we have the sheaf toss.
yeah.
What other
Well, that's
events?
different enough. That's
Yeah.
different enough. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what other events could be an Olympic sport. I think it's got to be caber. That's the one that everyone goes to see.
Right.
Everyone wants to
Right.
see. It's the most visually jarring. Like, holy, that dude's throwing a telephone pole.
Right.
Um,
right.
Yeah. So it would almost have to be caber.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, never say never. I mean, isn't there like in the Winter Olympics? Isn't like snowboarding?
yeah,
Is there snowboarding?
Yeah.
So there is room for new.
It's a winter
sports.
sport at the Winter Olympics, though. So
Yeah.
yes, those do skew towards northern countries,
Right.
but for natural reasons.
Jamaica bobsledding. Come on now, Ian.
Yeah, I think the national thing. It's would you have enough people to have an interest in it? But I guess you don't have to enter an athlete in every single
True.
Yeah.
qualify, right?
No, you don't. No.
Yeah, so
I think where I would look to is that there's lots of interesting national sports throughout the world that are unique to one country. And you don't see a lot of that at the Olympics. Sure, karate is pretty specific, but it's been adopted in so many places.
Yeah.
throughout the
I think
world
that's the thing.
in a way that Highland Games have not necessarily. So
So here's what we need to do. We have a non-Olympic. We have a National Olympic thing where you take sports that are very, very country specific, and you make those the ones that are just for this new thing. So you do have the caber toss. You do have lawn darts. I don't know, whatever. Can't think of it. Like American football, or you have specific sports that are very, very country related.
yeah.
You have Russian nesting dolls. That could be. Well, you have to fit inside people. I don't know.
I'm getting on board with this idea. So you're taking like a team from Scotland who does Highland Games and a team from India that does a very particular type of
Cricket or
wrestling.
something. Yeah.
Take a team from Brazil that does a very particular
High
type of
lyres.
jiu-jitsu. And
Oh, yeah.
from the Philippines that do that like rowing sport. I don't quite
Wanna-
understand.
yeah.
And like, do they all compete against each other at each other's sports? That could be fun.
Either that, or they all compete, but it's not like a roundhouse like the
Yeah.
show you were talking about. I'm thinking more like you get the best, caber tosser from every country,
Yeah.
and then or the best top 3 or whatever it is from each country,
Yeah.
and then you have the
Okay.
qualifying. It's set up like the Olympics, but it's just national sports,
Okay.
and then from countries around the world. So if there is no caber tossers in Thailand,
Yeah.
then or the caber tossers that are in Thailand didn't qualify, then okay, fine, they're not in that event, just like in the Olympics. So it's very, very competitive, but you may have more caber tossers from Scotland and North America where there's going to be more of those types of things. But I want to see more athletes, more cross-pollination of different like sports you don't know about.
you just want to get away from the whole Greek thing. Is that it? The
Well,
javelin and shot put and all the.
I'm
classic
fine
track and
with
field
those, but
Greek
those
stuff.
those are already established sports. I want to see
right.
weird, obscure sports from from Nicaragua, like or a particular tribe from the Brazilian rainforest, like something you don't have in in the U.S. or in Greece or in wherever.
Australian crocodile wrestling. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it.
That's what I want.
What is
It's a
this show
weird thing
about
to want.
again?
Exactly. It's about Highland athletics and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks. Caber toss. Have to be
Indeed.
caber toss.
Indeed. Has to be caber toss. All right.
Oh, wait. What if the caber is the torch?
Ooh.
And you have to flip the flaming caber
Flaming
into the
caber
thing to
torch?
light the torch on fire.
Heck yeah.
Try running 10 miles with that.
See now, damn it! Now I want to have the sheaf toss with like a flaming bale.
Yes.
That you have to flick over the bar.
See, everything
into
is
the
better
thing.
on fire. That's
Yes.
the
And
bottom
Stones
line.
you throw, but they're on fire.
Yes, you hold it right here.
Scottish sword dancing, but the swords are on fire.
Hear me out. Hear me out.
Bagpipe bands on fire.
But there are some bagpipe bands that should be set on fire.
Shooting flames.
Yes,
That's been done.
yes. Australian piper guy.
Oh my gosh.
Caper relay.
Caber.
Here, catch. No, you have the caber toss and the caber catch.
Wow.
All right, we're off the rails. Okay,
Boy,
it's Ian's fault.
I blame whoever asked the question. Meanwhile, back in the real world. Gene Smith says, I'm wondering how I might choose my next tartan since I am a smith. I have smith kilts already. However, my direct to Scotland lineage includes Anderson, Duncan, Gordon, Wilson, Oliphant, and more. Plus, my wife is a McCallum Buchanan, so I could theoretically honor her family also. He's got too many choices, is what he's worried about.
Fair.
Should I limit myself to the tartans based on my father's side or my mother's side, or can I honor my wife's family, or could I just go rogue and just get what I like? What is the usual and customary rule that most guys go by? So what do most guys do, and then work backwards from there?
Sure.
So
What do most people do? How do they pick their tartan?
their second tartan.
Or the second, or third, or fourth, or 27th.
Yeah.
I would say most people start with, if you're coming at it from a heritage angle, let's start with that supposition. So if you're coming at it from a heritage angle, most guys will, or gals, will pick their family tartan. So they'll pick their, generally speaking, paternal side. Sometimes they do maternal side, but they start down that branch. If their last name happens to be Gordon, or something with a particular tartan, then a lot of people will pick that actual tartan. You don't have to, though. If you're a Buchanan, but you're also a MacDonald on your grandmother's side, then, and you just really, really don't like the Buchanan tartan, you're just not a fan of it for whatever reason, then sure, you can happily pick the MacDonald tartan as well. There's no hard and fast rule saying you must express your heritage this way. It's your heritage. It's your life. It's yours to express in the way you want to express it. It's your clothing. So it's clothing with meaning, but it is your decision and it's your clothing. So if you have, more than one, frankly speaking, you have option. If you only have one, you still probably have options because you can pick ancient, modern, or weathered, or muted.
Right.
But if you have multiple tartans you can pick, then I would say either pick the part of your family or the branch of your family that you are closest to and go that direction. If you want to, get a second kilt, then great. Maybe you pick a secondary tartan from a different branch of the family. Or if you're married, maybe you wear your wife's tartan because, you want to honor her side of the family. If you just love, you love America, maybe you pick the American Dream tartan. If you love wilderness, you pick a universal, tartan from House of Edgar that they're doing, and they're marled yarns. Or if you've been to the Isle of Skye and you had a wonderful time there, maybe you wear the Isle of Skye tartan. You can wear different tartans to honor your heritage. It doesn't have to be a direct line. My last name is Gordon, so I'm wearing the Gordon tartan. That's the only thing I will wear. You can do that if you want to. That is 100% a viable way to do it. But don't put yourself in a box. Don't tie your hands before you make the decision. You may want to start that way, but it doesn't have to stay there if you want to wear something different.
Yep. I'm sure there are guys out there who admire all kinds of tartans and think they're all beautiful, but still decide to only wear their clan tartan. And they just, maybe they have other objects in other tartan because they love it. If that's you, I admire your discipline. I could not possibly do that. I'm a magpie. I like shiny things. So, yeah, there's really no hard, fast rule about this. I think definitely most people start off with a clan tartan if they're coming from the heritage standpoint. I'm from the opposite perspective. I came from the fashion side of things. My first kilt I ever owned was black, just shadow weave black. And then I got into the heritage stuff later. And I'm much better now. But really, especially if you're talking about your second tartan or third or whatever, there's no rule. And there's other factors you can consider that, Rocky, you didn't mention. Like, you could decide that for formal occasions, you want something really bright that's going to look in the low light of the ballroom or the place where you guys go for your theater performances, or your burn supper, your St. Andrew's dinner, things like that. You want something that just really pops in low light. Or you might decide you want to go seasonal and have something that really feels fall to you for the fall, and something that feels more light and springy, for the spring, or for summer, something that just feels less heavy, So there's colors, very abstract things like that, not just the familial connections and the social connections. So there's any number of ways to choose it. So I wouldn't worry about it. Stretch out with your feelings.
Yeah, there's no wrong way to express your heritage. Well, there are wrong ways. Okay, there are some wrong ways, but there's no wrong tartan to pick. So it's whether you want to be connected to it or not, whether you want to have only a particular either color palette or a particular just your clan tartans, or if you want to branch out into different things, or if you want to start with a non-clan tartan universal one that's a less expensive one, but you're going to save up and get your clan tartan for the formal stuff, so you have the nicest kilts to wear for that. So there are different ways to come at it depending on where you are in this journey. It's the journey of your heritage and the journey of life. And your finances. It's all very, very much a personal thing. If you don't have a lot of money and you want to start with the lower end to see if you like it, and then you work your way up, great. So it's all depending on what you want to do and how you want to go at it. There's no wrong answer. There's no wrong way to do it. Just start. Nothing
hard and fast.
Exactly.
Yeah. So and he's coming from the opposite perspective because he already has his Smith clan tartan.
Yep.
But yeah, if you are on a budget, like you said, or timid about getting started in this stuff, and you have an obscure clan, and you're only going to be able to get it as a custom weave, or it's going to be more expensive, because it's only available in 16-ounce wool, and what you have right now is a PV budget, then start with that, and then save up for the clan. I think that's a good point. It's kind of the switcheroo of what he's dealing with, but yeah, no wrong answer.
Yeah, but if you're already have one and you're looking for your second one, chances are you're like us, and it's kind of like potato chips. You can't just have just one, and you're gonna if you're watching this show, frankly, you probably care enough about this stuff, and you nerd out about it just the same way we do. So you're gonna end up with not necessarily a closet full of 40 kilts plus, but you're gonna have more than one. So I would say start with the ones that obviously you already have the Smith one, but you're gonna have 2, 3, 4, and kind of explore different ways within it. And another way to, keep it budget friendly is if you have one that you don't wear as much, but there's a new one over here that you really fell in love with, maybe sell this one off to be able to purchase that one.
Yep.
So yeah, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but wear the cat's skin. I don't know. That got really weird.
Use a glove.
Indeed. Yes. But cheers, and enjoy your heritage. Enjoy expressing your heritage however you do it. Just have fun with it, guys. Cool. All right, Mr. Ian.
So I've got a question here from Gleons1. If an organization wanted to develop a tartan for multiple media and materials, what would the timeline look like for design and then the weaving timeline?
an organization,
Media and materials?
Yeah.
media and materials.
So you mean like printing it on plastic as well as a polyviscose kilt as well as a wool kilt? Is that what we're talking?
Potentially, he or she was not overly specific.
Okay.
Yeah. The timeline to develop a tartan is as long or as short as you want to make it.
Sort of.
Yes, agreed. So to design it in print, it could be an hour. Like you could literally just use our tartan designer on our website and have a design mocked up in an hour. I don't suggest you design a tartan really quickly and then say, "Yep, cool, everybody like it? Yep, we're done. Excellent. That's going to be the tartan." I always suggest you design it and then save it, put it to the side. Then start from scratch, design something different. Maybe use the same colors, especially if they're corporate or branded colors, but design something very, very different. And then show it to a couple different people. Or save a few different tartans and then stop, sit on it, walk away for a few days, and then come back to it. And then see if you like it the same amount that you did when you stopped the process. So there's that level of it. Then when you go to the mills to have something woven, it depends on the mill. Some mills are a 7 or 8 week turnaround time for weaving things. Other mills are a 16, 20 week turnaround time for weaving things. So it depends on the mill that you are going to. And then there's whatever you're physically making out of the stuff. If you're making kilts or sashes or scarves or whatever else it is, there's that time that has to be involved in the process as well. If it's for print for marketing materials, that's pretty quick and easy.
Yeah, once you have it.
Once you have it, you have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it. It's basically, in a way, what's going to drag down the process is the most important factor, and that is making sure you have consensus in the organization that this is the design that you feel really represents you the best. If you're talking about a small club or a small group, like, say, a household in the SCA, it might be easier said than done. If you're talking about a national organization or a network of axe throwing clubs or a team or something, that could take longer. Democracy is a very valuable thing, but it can also be a very slow thing. So make sure that you don't push yourself into a time frame that's going to get you frustrated with the people around you you're trying to design this with. The averages for production of cloth, which is what we know the most, is exactly what Rocky was saying. So you can build that in at the end of your process, but make sure that you take the time at the beginning of the process and make sure you've definitely got everybody on board. That is absolutely key to make sure that it takes off. Otherwise you're stuck with a tartan that only a few people like, and you've invested maybe in these T-shirts or something, and nobody wants them. So that's my concern.
Yep, and I would kind of jump off of that and say, there's a phrase. I love this phrase called "death by committee." Right. So if you want nothing done, get a whole bunch of people into a room with 100 different opinions, and nothing will ever get done. So what I would, generally speaking, say works, what I have found works the best, whether it's a bagpipe band that comes to us or a corporation or whatever it is, and they want to design a tartan for their group. What I say is, okay, pick 3 people to kind of spearhead the project. So the most creative, the most in-depth, the most involved, or whoever it is, 3 people that really, really want to see this thing over the finish line and get them involved in the process. And then go to either one of, vote one of them as the designer, or, hire a tartan designer like us or somebody else and say, okay, here's the colors, here's the things we want, go. And then start going through the process of revising things. So let's say you pick John. John's your main guy, and then Steve and Sue. So Steve, Sue, and John's the guy designing it. Now, they go back and forth with the ideas and kind of go into the design of what they like and what they don't like, and they revise things over time. And then what I say is, come up with 2 designs. No more, no less. And when you take it to the broader committee, if you're going to have this design, brought in front of the board or in front of a group to have something approved, take 2. If you bring 3 or 4 or 6 different designs, you will never get consensus. Bring 2, and then it's a straight up or down vote. Which one do you like? Pick from these 2. That's it. But make sure that you have 2 designs that, as the designers, as the group of 3 or whatever it is, that are very involved in making sure that this project gets over the finish line. Make sure that you have 2 strong designs that look different enough from each other to give people a firm opinion, or allow people to have a firm opinion of, I like this one because it's simpler, or I like the complexity and the transitions in this one, or whatever. But have 2 designs. Don't go with 27. You're never going to get a consensus. That's my little tip in that area.
There you go.
Cool. Hope that helps. All right, Eric.
Colton Cunningham is wondering, for the budget-minded among us, we know that 5 and 8 yard kilts can be flexed down into more casual wear, but could a casual kilt be flexed up into more formal wear without the kilt police coming after us?
Would the kilt police come after you for a
casual kilt in a semi-formal formal?
Adam, I'm sorry for what I'm about to do to the microphone. Wee-oo, wee-oo, wee-oo. Yes, we are coming for you. I always hesitate to say that, lower end casual kilts. I'm specifically thinking of our casual kilt, or going to a broader thing like an acrylic, kilt made in Pakistan kind of thing. Not that ours and that are the same, but but they're both casual and visually are looking more casual.
Yes.
I would say that there's definitely a glass ceiling, or there's a ceiling somewhere in there that you shouldn't go above, period. For me, it's me personally, I would say the ceiling that I would hit is a sweater. I would pair a casual kilt with a nice pullover, a nice sweater, but that's essentially where I would stop. I wouldn't go. Now, I do have the luxury of having multiple kilts in the closet, but I wouldn't try to wear a casual kilt with a Prince Charlie jacket and vest. It would would look, to me, it just doesn't look like it belongs with the rest of the outfit. It's not quite there.
Yep.
Thoughts?
Yeah, you're reminding me of once we had a guy who came in and wanted to do exactly that, and we could not talk him out of it. He was, as I recall, he was a funeral director or something from Reading, and he wanted to have an outfit ready for the weekend, and he decided that he had to have an Irish tartan. So he took a casual kilt off the rack, and he bought he had money to burn apparently, but not a lot of time, and he bought a Prince Charlie set and a nice spore and all that stuff, but he bought a casual kilt, and it looked horrible to my eye. He was happy as a clam. I trust he had a great time and wore it in good health, but it just looked wrong. The drape was wrong. The boxiness of more casual kilts does not go with the silhouette of a tailored top half of an outfit. It just doesn't work. So yeah, sorry. I get the problem, but I'd say you could probably go as far as like maybe a shirt and tie, like shirt, tie, and vest, just kind of like going to the pub. Let's imagine a nice night going to a pub with a date or some buddies. Then I think you could probably get away with that.
Okay.
But anything where you have to have a sense of dignity or gravitas or officialdom or anything like that, it's just not going to work right.
Yeah.
Because there's a lack of tailoring and a lack of crispness and precision to the shaping of a casual kilt, that once you put it next to something that's very well tailored, like a Prince Charlie or a well-fitting tweed set, it's going to look wrong.
I would say this. I'll hedge a little bit. I'll back off a little bit. If it is either all you can afford, or if you're at an event where you're going to, let's say your buddy is marrying a woman with Indian heritage, and the wedding is going to be Indian themed, then Okay, like Indian from India. So it's like it's a lot of colors, it's a lot of bright over the top, a big huge freaking party atmosphere.
Lasts for 3 days. The groom comes in on a white horse.
Yep.
Yes.
And you're going to be the only guy in a kilt. Okay, they're not going to know, odds are, that okay, this isn't a proper wool kilt. Da 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 da.
Right.
So you can get away with things. For me, I would feel a little more like I should be wearing something a little bit fancier, a little bit dressed up for the thing, but you could get away with it. But that's kind of like the line I'm going to underline there is you're getting away with it. It's not the right thing.
Right.
It's close enough. And if you feel or especially if there's a time constraint, like the guy you were mentioning earlier, if there's a time constraint and you have to just get away with it for a particular event because you just don't have the time or you don't have the budget or whatever, that's fine. Then do it. But I would rather see, moving up the scale a little bit, at least like a semi-traditional kilt or something with narrower pleats or a little bit, the straps and buckles, something a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
I've never felt awkward being a little bit more overdressed than I have being a little bit underdressed. So that's kind of the way that I think about it.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Cool. Hope that helps.
Tough love, man.
Indeed.
Tough love.
Indeed. Ian.
So, from our friend Aaron Peabody up in the Pacific Northwest, he wants to know, in your experience, what's something in the Highland wear space that has been greatly improved by technological advances over the last 15 to 20 years, and what's something that maybe has not improved, or maybe could improve?
A couple of answers to that, I think.
I got a good one, and it's the same thing both ways.
Okay.
Yes. Sporns.
Okay.
Sporns, in my mind, laser etching sporns allows for whatever design our little hearts desire, and allows more customization and a lower cost to entry. So if I said, like, when we first started playing around with designs, like the Nordic sporn you have on there, when we had our lion logo on the sporn, I think that was actually the first one that they did.
Yeah.
I said, hey, Greg, I want this thing to exist. And he's like, cool, just send me a drawing of it and I can just laser it on there. Boom, done. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So the flexibility to be able to do whatever we want to do with sporn designs is really, really cool. What I think we have sacrificed is the look, the precision, not precision, but the beauty of hand-tooled sporns and hand-embossed sporns or debossed sporns, where when you look closely at a laser-etched sporn, it looks too perfect, or you can see the little lines on it, or it looks like it's either, I won't say printed on, but it's kind of printed on. It's lasered on.
You can tell it's laser.
Yes, you can tell it's lasered, and you lose the feel of something that's been hand tooled, hand stamped, and leather beaten into submission.
Yeah.
So I have a very, very soft spot in my heart for embossed leather sporns. I think it looks more artisanal, so to speak, than laser etched. But the laser etched allows for such a broad,
Some more variety.
Exactly, such a broad spectrum of things to
But
do.
you haven't really lost the embossing. It's a bit more niche and it's a bit more expensive, I think.
It's a
now.
lot more expensive.
Yeah,
The cost of
so
entry is a lot more expensive.
Yeah, it can be. So, but in a sense, a lot of this stuff did have a higher cost of entry back in the day. There's definitely a time where if you were middle class or blue collar class and you wanted a kilt and a sporn, I'm talking like the 50s through the 80s, it was going to be kind of crappy. Like the sporn was going to be a little more than a couple of pieces of leather and cardboard and not really gusseted properly to hold anything even. There was some low end stuff that was just utter crap back in the day, but it was perfectly acceptable because it was what most people could afford. Okay.
Okay. I disagree with. I've seen a lot of. I've seen poor quality examples, historical as well as current day.
Yeah.
So it still exists.
I'm saying I think the higher quality stuff has become more affordable.
Yes.
Or the nicer looking stuff.
The
Technology has allowed better quality, more durable stuff to become affordable.
It's yes, or it's the more variety, because the stamps,
That too.
the cost of, like, the one that I have on here, this is an embossed sporran flap, but you had more standard styles. It was like, okay, I'll take the A6 sporran or the B12 sporran or whatever. I don't know why I'm quoting vitamins, but but it's, this flap on this sporran is a very historical one. It has a moment in time
Classic.
where this was a classic design, exactly, because the brass stamps that had to be carved for actually stamping the sporrans was a higher cost to entry. So a sporran maker had, let's say, 8 stamps, and if I said, okay, well, I want a different stamp, then he would say, okay, fine, but it's going to be several $100s for for whatever, just for the stamp to be able to do a sporran. So it can't really just be a one-off. It had to be, for, unless you're ungodly rich, it had to be included in a brand new line.
Yeah. Aren't we kind of saying the same thing? Or am I confused?
No, it's for individuals. Yes, it would be. You would have more of a generic, mass-produced ones.
Yeah.
Versus
Just not nearly as nice or expressive or as good quality. It's hard for me to think of things I think we've lost. I think there's something that we've lost, which I think is kind of fun, and I would part of me wants to see come back is I think it'd be fun to see more people wearing castellated hose. Those are kind of cool, and they're kind of silly, but I dig them. So I think it'd be fun if those came back. I know there's a few of you guys out there, especially in the trad community, who have them and like them, and more power to you, because I think they're fun. But there's not a lot we've lost, aside from our dignity, perhaps. But no, the thing that I think the biggest technological advance for my money is 3D printing, and from CAD drawing to 3D modeling to 3D printing has made such a huge impact on designing any metal goods. Buckles and sporrans and skin dew handles and all that stuff. There is so much cooler stuff you can do now than back in the day for similar things we're talking about in terms of, like, time and effort and cost of entry and all that kind of stuff. But it is possible to have so much of that stuff made now that even a smaller operation like us, we can realistically consider, what if we did a buckle with a skull and a shipwreck on it, for the Welsh pirate community, and we can actually consider that and have it made, and that is freaking amazing. That's the biggest technical thing for me.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. Now here's where I think it gets. I love it and hate it. Again, back to the technology, the double-edged sword of technology is if I said, okay, well, I want a kilt pin made in a 3D printed thing. It's the quality of a 3D printed item is less than a metal cast item. But it allows the development of products to be shortcut. It also allows the back and forth on a particular design, especially if you are not an artist in that way. If I can sculpt something and send a piece of clay that I have sculpted to my pewter company over in the UK and say, here, cast this into a kilt pin, great. If I'm not, then I have to rely on an artist to do that for me, and it's like, hey, here's an idea that's in my brain, make it exist in real life. And then there's a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
Versus something that's a 3D printed thing. You start off with a 3-dimensional drawing of the item,
right,
and then it's kind of the back and forth on a 3D drawing, which is a lot easier to do.
I think that's the trick. The 3D the 3D render, the 3D sculpt using a 3D printer is the starting point, and then a qualified artist will take that to the next level. But it is more efficient for them and easier for them. It's easier to get prototypes done. And you see, okay, well, that's how it looks in 3D printing, sculpt that one. Fix those edges, smooth that out, bring this up a little more 3D by hand, and then you can really dial it in.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot, the technology that I think is making the biggest difference, as with any other industry, is really very much behind the scenes. So.
Yes, and I'll even keep springboarding off of that. The technology is only as good as the humans that are manipulating it. So when we did our American Eagle buckle, this is we actually did this one as a 3D printed thing, and then had to go in with an artist and have them
Activate
play
buckle
around
cam.
with it. So if you start with, and what we said for this one, in talking to the artist, and I'm using the word artist, even though he's just, sitting behind a computer playing around with a 3D drawing, he still is an artist, because they're the ability, when I said, look, I want the wings to taper up. Don't just give me a flat thing and draw it out and laser around it. I want like the wings to taper from layer to layer to layer. I want this to feel like a 3-dimensional piece of art, not just a flat thing. So you're still looking for artisans within their craft, and whether it's AI, whether it's 3D printing, whether it's laser etching, you're still having to rely on the human's input of the data and getting it honed to make it a better thing than you are if you just have, my cousin's boyfriend plays around with 3D printers, so I'll just have her do the thing. It's not just that. It's taking that and then kicking it up a notch, to quote Emerald Lagasse. You have to still be an artist within it to make it something, that people are going to want.
I got this idea for a buckle that has like William Wallace fighting the Predator.
I'd buy that.
I know you would. No. It's William Wallace in the middle. And he's got an alien on the tip of one sword here, and a predator on the tip of his other. And he's just like, "Argh!" And they're both gory and dripping blood. Yeah.
No, we're not making that happen. Don't ask in the comments.
I'm gonna start my own company called Nerd Kilts. It'll be a sister company, and we'll make all that shit.
Fair.
Okay.
All right. Let's do one more, and then we'll go over. Oh, we didn't do our question of the day. All right. Then we're gonna have a question of the day.
Dope. Okay.
Dope.
Okay. Dennis McLeroy. Sorry, Dennis McLeroy says, for the two gurus.
Where? This.
They're over there.
Yeah, they left. We'll handle the question though.
This October at Stone Mountain Highland Games, we will be meeting the new chieftain of Clan Grant. I would like to be properly attired for this occasion, and am planning to dress as follows: tweed jacket and waistcoat in Lovat green, matching kilt hose and tartan flashes, button-down white dress shirt, matching tartan necktie, brown leather day sporran, and brown ghillie brogues. Do you think this is appropriate, or should I ramp it up a notch and wear my black semi-formal sporran and black ghillie brogues?
It's at a Highland Games, it said?
Correct.
Okay.
Stone Mountain.
Sure. I'm on board with 98. Well, frankly speaking, exactly what you said.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. We're going to give some nuanced opinions here within it, but if you wore that, you'll be fine. What I would, the only one that I would, or two things that I'll take a little bit of issue with potentially, would be the necktie. I don't know if, I'm not a fan myself of wearing a matching tartan necktie to the matching kilt. So I would probably do something, either a club tie or an interesting, subtle pattern tie, or a single color necktie to maybe tone with your flashes or something like that. So I would probably do something a little bit different necktie wise. For your shoes, brown ghillie brogues, fine. Or if you want to even be a little bit more, traditional day wear, for lack of a better term, just a pair of brown wingtips. You don't have to wear ghillie brogues. Wingtips are just as acceptable, if not more so, for a day wear type outfit, smart shoe outfit, or smart shoe option for an outfit. So that's kind of the two where I would go. But I've seen, we got this question ahead of time, so we did look up the new clan chief for Clan Grant, and there's a few different photos of them wearing this,
almost exactly what you're describing.
Yeah, very similar outfit to that. So yes, and it's a day wear event. It's a daytime event. So I would not wear a black jacket and vest. I would not wear a semi-dress or semi-formal sporran. I would stick with day wear type accoutrement.
I think you could do a semi-dress sporran, but we see so many people breaking what we have traditionally thought of as the conventions all the time. I see dress sporrans at Highland games. People just do what they want to do. And I'm not talking just hoi polloi people either. I'm talking about, not talking about the plebs. I'm talking about, people of rank also. Just that's what they want to wear because it makes them feel special that day. And so it's fine. Your heart is in the right place. It's going to be fine. Your outfit is fine. My comments are exactly the same as Rocky's. Personally, I would rather see a club tie. I think the tartan tie is nice, but for me it's a little too on the nosy. Again, the ghillie brogues, you don't have to have them. I think brown is absolutely appropriate and even more appropriate for a Highland Games event, frankly. My only quibble is I would not do a button-down collar. Button-down dress shirts date back to around the turn of the century, like in the 1890s, and their exact origin is a tiny bit murky, but theoretically you had people playing polo in England who were starting to go to their tailors and request that they have buttons put on their collars to prevent them from flying up in the wind while they were riding in a polo match. And they were either homegrown in England, or one story goes that there was an American shirt maker who was visiting England and heard about this, and he decided to jump on it. Actually, it was one of the guys who founded Brooks Brothers.
I was going to say that the
Brooks,
Oxford shirt.
Yeah. They have always been considered a casual thing, frankly. So if it were me, I would use a true dress shirt, not a button down. That's my only critique. My only serious critique.
And when we say button down, you're specifically referring to a collar, not the buttons down the front of the shirt.
That's not a thing.
Correct.
That's a button down is where you got the buttons here and here.
I'm just putting it in layman's terms. When we're talking about button down, we're not talking about a shirt that buttons all the way down.
No. Because you have to open like here to show your manly chest. No, it's basically that shirt was always considered casual, nice. It was very popular in the college scene. In fact, it became part of a style called Ivy League. It's still very much something you might wear at the Hamptons.
Yes, lovely.
But I would not recommend it with the tweeds.
I'm going to go a little more into the shirt thing here. Tattersall. Yep. Damn it.
Yeah.
I would do Tattersall shirt or a window pane check kind of a let's say centimeter or so window pane or Tattersall type shirt with a color that pulls out one of the colors in the kilt. Could even be a minor color in the kilt. It just adds a little bit more pattern in a very, very traditional, classy way.
Yeah.
So if you're going to meet a clan chief and you can pull it off, if you don't know how to pull it off, if you're uncomfortable with mixing Tattersall or mixing patterns like a Tattersall shirt with a tartan kilt, then don't do it. Solid white, solid light blue is fine. But if you are comfortable doing it, then yes, a Tattersall shirt can look chef's kiss.
Yeah. And remember, if you go for the club tie option, a traditional club tie is only the two colors. It is not like thick stripe, thin stripe background, like you see like 80s ties or something like that. A club tie is usually just two colors. So specifically search for club tie when you go shopping, and you'll find various people making them, and especially English tailoring companies that offer them.
Yeah.
So pick something that tones with the tartan.
Indeed.
But you're gonna look fine. It's gonna, and I envy you the opportunity. I think it's gonna be a fantastic occasion. You guys are gonna have a great time. So
yes,
enjoy.
Indeed. Congratulations on getting to meet the chief.
Yeah.
So, all right, boys and girls. So question of the day. Adam, bring it on up. Would you wear a kilt when you visit Scotland? Or if you were visiting Scotland, would you wear a kilt? And why or why not? Would you be worried about what people think of you? Would you want to do it to connect with your heritage? Tell us down in the comments. Would you wear a kilt while visiting Scotland? That's question of the day. All right. Thank you, boys and girls, for joining us. Until next time, Slàinte mhath.